This is Sandy. And we are still concentrating on, so you want a watercolor? Where do I get my supplies? What kind of supplies do I buy? Today we're going to concentrate on brushes. And it is a headache to go to the store and look at all those brushes and think, I have no idea what I'm buying. So I hope I can guide you a little bit today. Okay, now we're going to start this off, and I've got my paints here. And sometimes you'll notice me as we're going to paint, I go in and I get the paint wet. The reason I do this is because this paint is dry. And if I'm going to be painting for somebody, a commission, I will start off with wet paint because the color is more vibrant. But this is my old paint that I've used, and I've let it dry, but I can still use it. I just have to reconstitute it. So I've put some water in here just to make it a little soft so that we can actually see what we're doing. Okay, we are talking about brushes. I'm going to show you a bunch of brushes here. All kinds of brushes. These are old brushes, and I don't use them for watercolor. These are actually some pretty good watercolor brushes, but they're not my favorite, and they're loose. The ferrule is the metal sleeve, and this one, it wiggles around, so I don't use this one because of that. This one has lost its shape, but it is a natural hair brush, so I don't use that one. This one is what's called synthetic, and it's a synthetic blend. And we'll go into why I don't use it, but I do keep this brush around because it does have its uses. These are flat brushes. I don't use them in watercolor. If I'm going to use these brushes, it's probably going to be in acrylic paint. And I don't really want a natural hair brush for acrylic paint because acrylic paint is hard on a brush. So I'm going to put these aside. I don't want you to go out and waste your money and buy brushes that you don't really need. But we really need to talk about brushes. There are hair on the brush, and the hair can be natural, and that's called a Kolinsky or squirrel hair or goat hair. There's nothing artificial in this. So it holds a lot of water. The hair pieces hold a lot of water. Now, if I go and I get a synthetic brush, that means it's man-made. And the bristles, if I bend it, aren't going to want to bend and stay bent. They also don't hold a lot of water. If I bend this, that's going to stay that way. But I don't want to make it tip, so I'm going to shape it the way I want it. So you go into Michael's or Hobby Lobby, either one, and you start looking at the brushes, and there must be 150 brushes. There's brushes with long handles. There's brushes with short handles. There's brushes with plastic handles. And there's brushes that look almost like pencils. So what kind do you want? Since we're watercoloring, we don't need a long handle brush. A long handle brush is basically used for acrylics or oils, where you just want to sit and dab like this, but we don't need that. we are going to watercolor, so we need specific brushes for watercolors. Now, watercolor, because of the name, is water. So you need a brush that will hold a lot of water. So we've got to figure that out. There's natural hair, and then there's synthetic and natural hair, and then there's synthetic. Well, I'm going to use this synthetic brush that I've got here, and I'm going to just squeeze the water out of the brush. There is 1 drop of water in this brush. That's an important thing to know. I'm getting my brush wet. I'm going to put it in some of that reconstituted color. And I'm going to, this is all, I haven't shaken my brush off at all. Just to see how much water is in it. I'm going to leave it right there like that. Now I'm going to use I think this is a synthetic blend. Now I'm going to use a natural brush, and I'm going to try and get about the same size. You're also going to see brushes that aren't the same size, or they say they're the same size, but they really aren't the same size. There is no uniform way of saying what size a brush is. It's done by each manufacturer. So a size 8 in one brush might be the same as a size 10 in the other, or a size 2 in another. Okay, so this is a synthetic, this is Kolinsky Sable. And if I just squeeze the water out of this, I've got more water than what I had out of this one. Okay, now I'm getting it wet. I'm going to just dip my brush in that color, and I'm going to see how much water is in this. Look at all that water still I'm getting out of this brush. Okay, so I'm going to put that one with that one. Okay, we took a little pause here, and while we were paused, I wrote in that this is a Liquitex synthetic. Liquitex is a brand that you'll find at any hobby store, really. Although Hobby Lobby I don't think has Liquitex, but Michael's does. But Azel's, whatever hobby store you might have around there, you will probably see a Liquitex brushes. That's all synthetic, doesn't hold any water. Okay, the next one that we're going to use is a goat synthetic, which means it's half goat hair and half nylon. So I'm going to get it wet. Let's see how much water it holds. I can just rub this on the edge. Squeezing it out. It's all squeezed out here. And we have got just a drop of water. Not very much at all. Okay, so I'm getting it wet. Then I'm going to put it into my color. Now let's see how much we've got. Well, the first brush stroke was a lot of water, but now it doesn't want to give us much more out of it. Okay, clean that out. On brush care, you'll notice that each time I've dipped into the color, I have cleaned out that brush if I'm going to let it sit. I don't want the color to sit in those hairs. Okay, so now I'm going to shift a little bit. This is called a hockey brush, Hake. It holds a lot of water. I'm showing you these brushes because there are ways around spending a lot of money. The hockey brush is one of those ways. If I were to get this wet, and I can't put it in this little container because it's so big, but I can put it in this one. I'm going to put it in the center container. Oh, here I've got a container. And I squeeze that out. Well, it doesn't hold quite as much water as I thought it did. Let's try that one again. This is still wet. Now, granted, this is about 10 of these brushes, so it should have a little extra water. It has quite a bit of water. Okay, I'm going to get it wet again. I'm going to stick it in the color. And I am just going to go back and forth. Boy, I can come up here and go back and forth. I can move things and go back and forth. That is a lot of water. Okay, so what are we learning here? Oh, we got one more brush. It's Squirrel Hair. This is Paul Rubin, and it's actually we got it on Amazon. And this is Degato, but it's basically the same thing. The Squirrel Hair is in there. It comes out to a tip. It's got a very natural wood handle. I'm going to put this back in here, and I'm dipping it in water. I'm going to wipe it, and then I'm going to just squeeze the rest of it out. And that's how much that little brush held. Okay, I got it wet. I'm going to put it in the color. Wow, look at how much water that holds. What's that telling you? This is about the same size as these, maybe a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm cleaning it out. So depending on which brush you get, will depend on how much water it holds. That is a test that if you don't go with one of them that I've mentioned here, and you want to try a different brand, you're going to have to test it out like this. Figure it out. Now, let's say you're going to the store and you really don't know if they're telling you the truth. Is it synthetic? Is it natural hair? Natural hair costs more money. Synthetic is cheaper. And maybe they're going to do a switch for you. One way to tell is to bend your brush, the tips, and see if it bends. This was the goat and synthetic one. Okay, I keep bending it and it keeps wanting to pop back. So how much goat hair do you think is in that? Probably not very much. This is the squirrel. Oops. Make a mess. This is the Klinsky. And this is synthetic. Okay, as long as this is wet, the shape will stay bent. These are also, I'm not sure what these are. They're natural hair, and they will stay bent too. Okay, that's one way to tell what kind of hair, if it's synthetic or not. If it's synthetic, you aren't going to be paying a whole lot for these brushes. $10 a brush. If it's got natural hair in it, you're going to be paying more. And if it's got the Klinsky brushes, you're going to be paying quite a bit. So you've got to decide how you want to pay for your brush, or what you want to pay for your brush, and how you think you're going to be using it. As a beginner, you might think, I can get by with just a cheap brush. But I'm telling you that it is hard to do watercolor. And let's put another color in with that. And try to make it move, because it doesn't have the water in it. So you're either wasting your paper by buying a cheap brush, or you're wasting your paint. And you don't want to waste your paper or paint. Let's try this Scout Synthetic. That's not bad. It's got a lot of water in it. It's got a lot of water. So that's pretty good. Let's go to the Klinsky Sable. See how nice that went on? That has a lot of water in it. I like that one. Can you tell that's my brush? Let's go with this one. This is the Squirrel. Wow, that's got a lot of water in it too. So you see the difference here? There's not enough water to make that spread, to make that watercolor work. There's really not enough water to make this one work either. This one's working. It's going, and this one is working. So I've told myself already that the Squirrel Hair brushes, and the Klinsky Sable are pretty equal. This one right here, not so much. Okay, so you've narrowed it down. You think, I don't really want the synthetic, but if I have to, I will go with this one. Okay, so now where are you going to find them? Well, let's first talk about Klinsky Sable. What is it, and how do they use it? The Klinsky Sable is also known as red sable, and they get the hairs from the tails of mink, ferrets, or weasels. Generally, it's from Siberia and Northeast China. Why would somebody manufacture and get their hair from those countries? There's very lax animal protection laws. So yeah, the animals are not being treated very nice. But you have their product. Squirrel, you can get squirrel in the United States easily. And we do have more laws that protect the squirrels. So you have to decide when are you going to buy an animal hair that is protected and treated humanely, or not. Somebody asked me that, and my thing is, I have had these brushes here for over 10 years. So I'm trying to treat the animal as though it's precious. So I'm taking care of my brushes, and we will talk about that. That's why I went with the Kolinsky Sable. Okay, now let's talk about the care of the brush. We used it, and you saw me rinsing the brush out here. And when I'm done with this, I'm going to take some liquid soap, squirt some in the palm of my hand, rub it around, and I'm not pushing way down, I'm just rubbing it. And then I'm going to rinse it. That's cleaning your brushes. Each time you use your brush, you should clean it. Now, when you're done and it's rinsed out, there's no more soap bubbles in here, I'm going to then reshape my brush, lay it flat to dry on the counter, in a box, flat so that when it dries, the tip isn't pointed in a bad direction. I'm going to shape it so that it has a nice tip. Now you're going to come up with some brushes that no longer have that shape. This is a natural hair brush, but if you can't get it to keep its shape like that, it isn't a very good brush. So that's another reason that I go with a specific brand of brush. On the totally synthetic brushes, you can clean it the same way, or sometimes the paint will really get up in here, and I will put it in a little jar of alcohol, and the same way, just run it around like this. That cleans the colors. This brush hasn't been cleaned for a while because I'm getting soap in it that's colored. And I'm going to clean it the same way. Shape it, even though it's not going to matter. And then put it aside. Now on some of the brushes, you'll see that I have wet hands when I'm using it, or I don't know why it does that, but I've lost the paint and it's just wood now. Doesn't affect the use of the brush. You will find, the pets, the animals, my dog got to this one. I don't know what she thought it was, but the pets will like this. This is wood to them, and they'll eat it up. Okay, do you see how this one doesn't want its shape right here? After it's dry, I can take just a little bit of soap and I can run it up this brush, shaping it, letting it dry. But I have to remember to rinse it well before I use it with my paint. Doing this will help save your brushes. So now we've talked about the care of the brush. On the hockey brush, same way. You can use soap on it, rinse it out, give it a good shake, and then shape it. Why would I do that? I'm going to tell you the prices of these. Number one. And I have a Cheap Joe's catalog here. I didn't ask for it. They just sent it to me. But I'm using this because I want you to see the pages and pages of brushes that they've got. Look at all those brushes. So I'm hoping to make it easier for you. But I'm using Cheap Joe's as one of the sites because of that. All right. I paint a lot. I will show you my paintbrushes, the only ones I use. There they are. Remember I said that not all of these companies have the same numbers, so I can't say I'm using a number 10, you use a number 10. But this will tell you basically a number 10 is smaller than a number 12, and then a rigger is smaller than all of the others. But these are the brushes I use. That's it. I don't need 10 or 12 brushes. I can use each of these and still get everything I need to do on a painting, any size of painting. So you only need 4 brushes. Let's say that mop brush or the biggest brush is $130. How are you going to get by with it? Well, that's where this comes in. This hockey brush is $19 or $10, this size. That's all you need. This does the same thing as this. You could have a larger brush, a larger hockey brush, depending on the size, but you've got so much water in here, you're going to have a hard time controlling it on paper. So that's how I get by with that one. I can use this one for $9 as opposed to this one for $130. The ones that you don't want to mess around with is this one and this 10 and this 12. That's because the majority of your painting is done with these 2 sizes. I can cover this size in a wash with this size 12 brush. Now, depending on where you go, I want sable. And Cheap Joe's has it for $128. Hobby Lobby, give it up. You're not going to find it there. In fact, Hobby Lobby has the most unfriendly website I've ever seen. In order to find a paintbrush, you have to go to watercolor paper. And then you have to go to, you have to go to cards. And then to the cards, you have to go to watercolors. And then you might find the brushes, if you're lucky. So I would stay away from Hobby Lobby. Also, whatever price you see in the on their website, and you think, I'm going to go to the store and I'll just pick it up myself, they aren't the same. Same SKU numbers, different prices. Something's up. Okay, so maybe you'll go over to Michael's. Michael's has a brand called Princeton, which isn't too bad. Their synthetic sable is $16.99 and $19.99, which it's doable. It's more like this this brand that I've got here. So if you think you can get by with the synthetic sable, you can do that one, the Goten Synthetic. Now you can get that at Michael's, or you can order it from the princetonbrush.com. Now, there's also other websites. There's Jackson's, There's, I at a loss here for the other websites, but I will put them on. You can look at all of those and look for their synthetic sables or their sable. But remember, you only need these two brushes to be really good quality. My liner brush, my rigger, you can get a rigger in almost any rigger, and I would still try to stay away from synthetic. But because you're not holding a lot of water, it doesn't matter. It's the size 10 and the size 12 that you really need. So where can you get them? You can go to Amazon. You can, and I'll put a couple of different brands on Amazon that I've had good luck with. Or I go to Jean Haynes online art school, and she uses jacksonart.com, and I can get the size 10, the size 12, and the rigger for $196, which is a good price. So depending on how much you want to spend, you've got your choices. You could also do the Dugato, and they have a four package, and it's $40. This is good, a good starter. Okay, let's talk about, you bought your brush, you brought it home, and you get it out of the package, and it is not moving. It came with the little sleeve. So you figure you should be able to take it off and use it, but it's almost sharp enough to cut. So when they package the watercolor brushes, they put a glue on it. To get the glue off, you don't use hot water. You put it in some water, and then I just use my finger to brush a little bit, to work a little bit of that glue in. I'm not pulling, I'm just opening it up a little bit to get some water in there. Do it again. Give it a little squeeze, but don't pull it. This hair is put in here, but it's not sewn in or anything. It's not glued in. It's just held by this sleeve. So we don't want to pull it out of there. Okay, I'm still working that brush. Now it's starting to bend more. Okay, it's worked out. Now it's ready to use. If you were to bend it right out after you've opened it, it could break the bristles. So you want to be careful on that. I hope this helps you on how to pick a brush. Really, I don't think I'd go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby. And if I'm going to learn how to do something, I want to learn how to do it right. I would probably start with these because they hold the water and they let you watercolor. If you're really serious about it, I love Jean Haynes's. That's all I use. So there we are on our brushes. Oh, let me talk about water. Okay, I've got water. I live in Texas, and I have a water softener. I can't use the water softener. The water has to not have salt in it, and the water softener puts salt in it. So either use bottled water or tap water that doesn't have softener. If you've got hard water, though, that has minerals in it, it could do the same thing to the paint as the water softener. So you might just need to go get some distilled water. Okay, next time we do paints, and we're going to have fun with that one. Okay, next time we are going to be working with watercolor, trying to tell you how to pick your watercolors. There must be 200 shades of watercolor. So we're only going to use 3. These are Daniel Smith, if you want to get some, and just do it along with us. It's Hansa Yellow Medium, French Ultramarine Blue, and Perylene Red. These are their primary colors. So we're only going to get 3 colors and see what we can do with them. And feel free to make a comment or mention if you've had any luck in getting any of these supplies, or if you need help. We're always here.